Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. The attention on the other developing topics. And yesterday, the Chief Justice said, I'm a victim of cyberbullying. It is a technologically facilitated gender-based violence, but I know the intentions. It's a business model. I don't know to achieve what. Maybe to scare me, disrupt me, defame me, and hunt me out of office, but they can try something else. That was CJ Martha Koome. And to which Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir, coming to you, Nelson Havi, said, go home, just go home. He was your teacher. And you reposted that on X, formerly Twitter, meaning you have retweeted. Are you one among those who are technologically bullying the CJ?
Such a naive, humble person by domestic standards. It can never lie in my hands or my mouth to bully. But that notwithstanding, I can be extremely ferocious in defending the rights of the people of Kenya. We have, over the last 3 days, demonstrated without any contradiction from the part of the CJ that the problem that bedevils her is not one of cyberbullying. The problems that underlies the failure on the part of the Chief Justice is not her gender. And indeed, as informed lawyers, we are trained to look above the waist. We look above the neck. We are never concerned with the genitalia of whoever is serving as a judge. So it should concern us that somebody holding the office of the Chief Justice can only come and say, the only defense I have to the inability of the judiciary to clear backlog, to the inability of the judiciary to deal with cases of the corruption, to the inability of the judiciary to sit on designated dates, hear cases and determine matters, is cyberbullying and my agenda. Who says that? You are the Chief Justice, for heaven's sake. And Ayub, let me say this without any fear of contradiction. The problem with Martha Koome is not cyberbullying, it's not her agenda. It is incompetence.
How so?
She is a below average lawyer from her qualification at the university. She's an underperformer judge as per the report of the vetting of judges and magistrates. In fact, she fell short. I can classify her at 49%. That is a failure in a law class. She failed. You understand? And we have this problem in Kenya where we tend to appoint into higher office individuals who have failed. To what end, I do not understand. So that the system, so that the structure, so that the agency fails. We cannot have a failed judiciary. That's why I must share in the lamentation of my teacher, PLO Lumumba. We can have a failed executive. We can have a failed parliament. But we can never have a failed judiciary. And there's unanimity of thoughts that there is a failure of performance by the judiciary. Yesterday and the day before, I documented cases of 130 judges and magistrates who did not sit. They were attending official duties, they were attending conferences, they were attending seminars. One was actually on a radio show when she was supposed to be in court. And when we raise these things, the CJ says we are cyberbullying her, we are targeting her because of her gender. If she feels that her gender incapacitates her from sitting as Chief Justice, she must leave office. Not today, yesterday.
Okay, and
go out.
Talking about the case clearance, in the statement she issued following the letter by your teacher, PLO Lumumba, she also said, in the face of an ever-rising caseload, we have recorded a commendable 99% of case clearance rate across all courts.
This is a PR stance. If I was to use a Sheng word, hii ni mchezo wa tauni. What case clearance are we talking about? Go to my Twitter handle, go to my Facebook page and look at the comments. There are people with cases that have been in the High Court for the last 20 years. You understand? So when we raise these concerns, we don't want conjured up statistics that have been written by these individuals who've never been to a courtroom. You understand? We want real evidence by litigants and advocates who are unanimous that there is no movement of cases. And it's not because of backlog. It's not because of want of adequate finance. is not out of want of structure. It's because judges and magistrates find it more prudent to go and collect per diems, attending these trainings and seminars and official duties instead of sitting in court to determine cases.
All right.
It's as simple as that.
We'll talk more about the state of judiciary and the administrative justice report, which is comprehensive, and there are other petitions as well which have been before the Judicial Service Commission, others dispensed with. But Demas, coming from an organization that advocates for rights and access to justice, what does this debate on the integrity of the judiciary then mean for Kenyans who cannot afford justice, who cannot afford representation in a court of law, then mean in accessing justice, given that the major fraction of attention now is towards how to address this intra stuff that the CJ had talked about, and concerns have been raised by counsel such as Nelson Havi, the former president?
I think, first of all, it's prudent to acknowledge that the judiciary is actually one of the arms of government that enjoys more public trust than the rest, and that especially since 2010, they have been really a bulwark of protection of rights, especially when the legislature and the executive come together to butcher the constitution. They have their own challenges. As a country, we have never really prioritized funding of the judiciary in terms of what we desire for access to justice for Kenyans. And this situation leads us to have insufficient number of judges, magistrates at all levels, which now creates case backlog. There are other things that are being done by the National Council on Administration of Justice. For example, there is a review of the laws to reclassify or remove certain petty offences, which have actually been used by the police really to clog up the justice system. Okay. So that instead of dealing with serious issues, we are dealing with drunk and disorderly people touting and so on and so forth. So there was a bill that was presented, and we hope that will be made, that will be expedited. So the judiciary has its challenges, and it as an organ of the state, it is accountable to the people, and the people have a right to talk about the judiciary and to interrogate what the judiciary is doing. And my advice to the judiciary is that they should have a thick skin and listen and respond to what Kenyans are saying. Regarding the comment on gender-based violence, there is actually research that shows that women and girls online are more vulnerable to targeted verbal violence online, just because of the nature of things, and this happens to all women, especially women in leadership. There is research that is happening right now to see what could be the underlying reasons behind that. It is also true that actually social media in itself is more harmful to young girls than even boys.
Is the CJ a young girl?
No, I'm just saying that there is a gendered...
We don't need young girls.
There is a gendered aspect of social media, and we need to acknowledge that. But be that as it may, leadership really entails having a thick skin, and that is what I would advise.
And Dan, the CJ also had reached out to other parties that are very important in this entire debate, which includes regarding the integrity, the President of the Law Society of Kenya and the Council of the LSK, the Chairperson of the Senior Council Bar, and the representative members of the Senior Council Bar, the heads of courts and members of the Judicial Service Commission to join in regarding this agenda. But how of an effect will this be, given the talk of trust issues and corruption, allegations of corruption that have been raised by Counsel Havi and Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, and the letter by Pierre Lumumba and LSK by extension, and the need not to lose this very a critical pillar of our governance architecture, which is the judiciary. How can this be addressed by these parties coming together? Do you foresee a situation where there will be a substantial outcome?
From the onset, I would want to say that the framers of our constitution, if you look at the architectural and design of our constitution, it envisaged that we will have a judiciary led by a chief justice, and the entire judiciary, or all the judges, are actually protected. And they're protected for one major reason, so that they can actually give justice to the people without any fear, without any favor, and without any external influence. Such that what Kenyans would want at the bare minimum is results. And justice delayed is justice denied. Such that the lamentations that we have been seeing about the backlogs, they've been there even before the current Chief Justice. They've been there, and we've been having all these reports year in, year out, but we are not seeing the results. And to a large extent, in terms of what I am seeing, the issues that Nelson Havi has raised, the issues that Senior Counsel has raised, they are not new issues. Actually, these issues they've been raising them. I think maybe now it's just in unison, but they have been raised. So my issue would have been that the Chief Justice ought to have taken a chance of listening to these issues, finding ways of bringing people on the table, including our leadership, so that they discuss what can we do. When you get feedback in the nature of what Nelson Havi has given, it then means something is not working. Because we have tools, and I remember during Gladys Beausoleil's time, she used to send, officers to courts, and they were incognito. And they will come back and say, these and these courts started late, and it was very, at least they had some tools. But you see now it's very easy to log into any court in terms of the judicial staff. And, from wherever they are, courts should start on time. There's no reason whatsoever why a court should not start on time. And, or more importantly, why should not actually sit. I was in a matter yesterday where a child has not been in school for the bigger part of this term. And I can tell you, the first time the court was not sitting, yesterday the court again didn't sit. And I didn't know what... Safari Park for and I didn't know what to tell the lady, the mother, because now she's distraught. And you see, these are things that come back to us. So sometimes when these issues are raised, I don't know if people are different. My brother may raise it in a very ferocious way, but the bigger part is, what is the message? And he's doing it for good. Because these courts have returns. There is a tool that was employed where there should be returns. Then it behoves the judiciary to look at the returns and actually what has been availed to see, are there false returns being given, or is the return process actually effective?
And was there a justification as to the absence of that judge from the courtroom where he was supposed to be?
Actually, unfortunately, it was not even, there was no notice. That's how bad it was. And people had to actually remain online up to 11 a.m. And when we were told, that's when you call and you are told the judge is not sitting. So at a point, it is actually something that then contributes to what we are calling backlogs. And because if it happens in one court, it has a multiplier effect. But not to say that, of course, judges are human beings. They may have, they may be bereaved. They may have maybe their personal, aspects, maybe, which you, just like lawyers, sometimes we may seek adjournments in court, and those will be granted. But what I think the essence here is to look at this not just being someone taking, for those cases which are not genuine, like someone being in a TV or radio station at the behest of being in court. That will be an issue. But what we are saying is that, and when you look at that particular letter, and it also worries me that when PLO has written, then there is a response. When Nelson Havi and Ahmed Nasir were complaining, there was no response. But it doesn't matter. What matters is there is now, the CJ has appreciated that there is a problem. And what matters now is how we deal with it without now saying that, you know, you are being attacked. I think let's look at the bigger picture, because once you occupy public office, like Demas is saying, interrogation is part and, whether you are male, whether you are female, interrogation is part and parcel of it.
Your life.
It can never be an excuse.
Yeah.